Grand Rising. So what's interesting and what comes up a lot these days is people not understanding, the system that they're in. And with that, I mean, a bit of a bird's eye perspective on life, right? Because it is important for you to understand what it means if you have someone in front of you that is trained by the system, that has gotten a, curriculum by the system, that is being later on controlled by the system and still, gets checkups by the system. For example, doctors, for example, accountants, and some lawyers and stuff like that as well, right? Because there are certain regulations and all that kind of stuff that they have to stick through. So what, for example, does an accountant do that is, in some suburb and then is just trained in your country's tax law? They optimize for the system. They're not going to help you, get a proper tax strategy in place that helps you minimize taxes internationally, for example, with you having a different citizenship, or with you having a different, tax jurisdiction, and with you having your life basically split over a certain jurisdiction, so you cannot be grabbed properly, right? So they're not going to optimize for that because they simply haven't been trained in that. And same goes for doctors. Certain doctors have no clue about any of the stuff that is actually important. I just talked yesterday to someone that is in the hospital, and they told me they're just checking the blood samples, and they're just going by the blood samples, and it's such a big mistake, because the body is not just the blood. The body and the system that we're in, it's not everything is found in the blood, and that's just one example of so many, right? And you have to understand that. And because it's important, who do you go to when shit hits the fan, or even before, right? And so once you get that the expert in our so-called society is not always the expert, you can start to open your mind a little bit and look for better solutions, right? And look for better guidance, because that's ultimately what you should do. And you should do it by yourself, and you should look for solutions by yourself, and not just trust some expert that got that that position, let's say, by the system, and their judgment might be flawed. Their experience with certain things might not be complete and might not be deep enough. So just be aware of that, and try different things, and try different humans, in a sense where you get different viewpoints and different put yourself in different conversations, I would say, right? It's super important. And so if you have a big issue, get 2 or 3 different opinions on it. I would never go with just one, and then see whatever you feel like is the one that resonates best, and the most with you. So I hope that made sense, because it's omnipresent, this problem that we have with the way we're brought up, and the way we are taught what is right and what is wrong, and who is right and who is wrong, and who is the expert and who isn't, right? And only the one that has gone through that certain system and that certain path is the expert, because we give them the certification for that. We give them the stamp on a piece of paper, and without that stamp and without that certificate, they are nothing.